Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to today's OPA Lunch and Learn. So my name is Mark Brannigan. I'm behind the scenes and I'm just keeping an eye on the number of people joining the webinar. Those who've been with me before know that I do a preamble and I just fill the time while those people are in the Zoom waiting room join us on the webinar here. So while I'm doing that, I'm just going to let you know, Q&A is the place where you're going to post your questions. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, you should see a little Q&A symbol. If you can't see it, click on the three dots and you should find it there as well. So the chat will normally be turned off. We are going to have it on for a short while at the beginning, which is a little bit different than usual, but after that it will be turned off, and Q&A is the place where you're going to put your questions. If you're new to Zoom webinars, don't worry if you can't start your video and you can't start your audio. That's entirely normal. That's okay. So I can see from the numbers, it looks like we've got most people here that we need. I'm going to hand over now to Kurt, and he's going to begin our introductions for us. Kurt, it's all yours.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Kurt Anderson. I'm on the board of the Oil Painters of America, and I'm coming to you from my studio in Alexandria, Virginia. I'm taking a little break from my painting today. I'm actually working on a mystery miniature for the upcoming national show. I was reminded that we had to get those done, so I'm hard at work today doing that. And I'm here with a lot of our most importantly, with our vendors with Artwork Archives, and we're excited to hear their presentation today. I'm also here with Susan Abma, our president, and Susie Baker, who's also on the board. And we're going to just share a little bit of what we think a compelling reason is to come to our national exhibition that's bearing down on us in 6 weeks. And we're making preparations for the convention, and I promise you, if you come, you will have a great time and come away with a lot of great memories. My most compelling reason for the thing I think I enjoyed most about the national convention is the wet paint competition, and being able to, like a lot of artists, I love to see demonstrations by great painters. I always come away with new ideas, but like most artists, I think I like to roll up my sleeves and start painting myself and putting whatever I learned to practice. And you certainly can do that at the National Convention at the wet paint part of it, which lasts 2 to 3 days, and you're painting alongside some of the major artists in the country. It's an incredible experience, an incredible bargain to be able to do that and not have to pay workshop prices. So that would be my most compelling reason to come to the National Convention. I'm going to hand it over to Susan Abma, our president, and she's going to give you her compelling reason.
Well, other than the obvious, which is seeing some of the, top painters in the US's best work on display, the education you get from that is incredible, and you take it with you forever. It's an experience that you can't get from just reading a catalog or seeing it online. When you see that art in person, it lives and breathes, and you remember what it takes to get your work to that level. So I think it's very helpful in that respect, and very exciting to see those works. But I deal a lot with the mystery mini portion of the show, and I really need some help solving the mystery of who done those paintings that are on display for a short while during the show, and people get to put their names in to potentially have their name drawn and have the opportunity to purchase a Sherry McGraw, a Susie Baker, a Kurt Anderson, among others, who do these mystery miniature paintings from the goodness of their heart to support OPA, which is a nonprofit, and that is one of the ways that we fundraise. So I hope you'll come help us raise some funds, have a chance to purchase some of those fantastic paintings for a huge bargain. And come away with the excitement of trying to figure out whose painting each one was, possibly walk away with a little prize for that portion of it, but also come away with friends and a great experience. So that's one of my compelling reasons. There's a lot more, and Susie can tell you hers.
Okay. Hey, y'all. All right. Get a pen, get a pencil. So our national show and convention is going to be April 2nd through the 7th. So we start with that wet paint competition that Kurt was talking about. And then we roll right into our show and convention. And it's at Mark Arts in Wichita, Kansas, which means that we are nearly literally in the center of the United States. And we have not been at this location before for our national show. So very drivable. I'm going to be driving up from, we're here in my studio north of Houston, Texas. That's a little far, but there's a lot of people very close that can drive. Okay, so my compelling reason, 2 words, Pat McDaniel. If you have bought frames from JFM before, you could probably sing the praises of Pat McDaniel, the way he takes care of us artists in supplying our needs. If you guys are here today watching this particular Lunch and Learn, then being a professional artist and professionalism is part of that. And we know that a huge part of that is your supplies and your vendor relationships. And the opportunity to drive to our national show with an empty car and drive home with your year's worth of frames without having to pay shipping, to shake Pat McDaniel's hand, he will put on the wires and frame and all of that for you. So that is one of my compelling reasons to attend the national show is vendors. You know, the more money we spend on art supplies, the better painter we are. That's what they say, or that's what I say. Anyway, okay, so you guys are professionals, or you want to be, or you want to be more organized. So it is my honor right now to introduce to you our panelists who are going to be talking to us from Artwork Archive. So first up is Cassidy is first one up we got here. Cassidy Cole is a product education lead at Artwork Archive and an artist based in Los Angeles. She is committing to helping artists boost productivity, gain visibility, preserve their legacies, and build sustainable careers. With extensive experience working in contemporary gallery, Cassidy pairs insider industry knowledge with product expertise to deliver meaningful training and resources for artists. And Katie, who popped in there, serves as the head of content at Artwork Archive, creating educational resources to empower artists in career development and preserving their career legacies as well. Based in Denver, Colorado, Katie is also a ceramic artist who brings her own experience to help fellow artists craft sustainable practices. They're going to help us today understand how we can raise our level of professionalism. And I have to say, from a personal standpoint, I have been using Artwork Archive for a long time now. And my inventory system was like all up here and random sheets of paper with very predictable results. You know, losing things, you guys know, you understand, that's why you're here today. It is one of the best things I did from a business standpoint. The ease of which you can communicate with gallerists, with potential collectors, with yourself, knowing where your paintings are at any given point. These are all things that are very easy to do through the platform of Artwork Archive. It's very robust, and they are very responsive with any questions that you have. If you are finally doing that thing you know you need to do and filling out your, you know, building that backlog of paintings, they're there for you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Cassidy and Katie. And welcome, you guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Susie, and to everyone else, Kurt and Mark, and everyone who took the time out of their day to come here and learn a little bit more about how to get organized. And specifically, we're going to show you how to use Artwork Archive to do those to get more organized, to present your work. We're both artists and know the struggle about how hard it is to get organized. And if you're like us, we've had tons of folders in your desktops, information everywhere. So we're going to show you how to kind of streamline that and grow using Artwork Archive. So Cassie, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, I think the chat is open right now, just for a quick second. We just wanted to see where everyone was logging in from. That's the magical thing about Zoom, is people can all be together from all over the country, the world. So I just wanted to quickly, introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're logging in from. And also, I would love to know your familiarity with Artwork Archive, and if you have any specific burning questions that you brought to this presentation. Just, it helps us kind of guide as we're going through. So if that chat is open, that would be really great. If you have no idea what Artwork Archive is, if you are brand new to an inventory platform or inventory system too, that's really helpful to know as well. If you've been using Excel, it's also fun to know, what are you using right now to keep track of your career? Lake Tahoe, Nova Scotia, amazing. Vermont. Hi, Linda and Celeste. Oh my goodness, this is incredible.
So many.
Nancy, you have an account.
Great. And I did want to mention that I'll be answering questions in the chat as we go along, or in the Q&A, I'm sorry, and any other questions. So feel free as we go along to please ask questions. We love hearing from you. It helps us guide and make sure that, it seems like such a great group right now that people are there and we're just not talking to the void. So we love to hear your questions. Please ask them as we go along.
And I'm seeing people mention that they are using Dropbox, iCloud, all in my head. Amen. Yes. I signed in Artwork Archive in the beginning, haven't taken full advantage. Okay, this is really helpful. Thank you so much for reaching out and letting us know. Using Excel, there are so many ways to keep track of art. Don't know anything? Great. Okay, so we're gonna move along because I know we have limited time. We did our intros. This is us also making art. If you have no idea what Artwork Archive is, this is just a really quick history. So we began in 2010, one of the first cloud-based art inventory systems. It actually was spurred by one of our co-founders, John, whose mom is a fantastic, prolific artist. She's a painter, and she lost a lot of really valuable information about her career from a hard drive crash. And then John, being a software engineer and also a really great son, he said, there's got to be a cloud-based, system. Let me help you find something so that this never happens again because you lost so much information. He couldn't find anything that worked specifically for artists and for her and what she needed. And so he built something, and then word got out, and that's, where Artwork Archive began. And we've been slowly building. And then we also have collector accounts and organization accounts as well, but we'll be walking through the artist account, obviously. We provide tools for artists to manage their inventory. And something that we're really passionate about is protecting artistic legacies. So we'll talk more about that in the next slide, but it's also about offloading all of these things into an organized system so that your career can grow and that you're not holding it all on your own. It's really accessible for early stage artists and powerful for professionals that have been making art for decades. It's more powerful than a spreadsheet. You can import information if the idea of adding your artwork to a platform is overwhelming to you. And then we're also serving users in over 130 countries. So we're all over the place. And I just want to preference too that we are going to be, showing screenshots of Artwork Archive, but really whatever works for you is the best process for you to be able to keep track of your work, manage your career, and ultimately protect your legacy. So while, if Artwork Archive or an inventory platform doesn't feel like something you want to, invest in or do right now, whatever you're doing is great for your career, like in Excel. Let all of the fields that we're showing and everything that we're talking about inspire you and just spur you to realize what is possible to keep track of and how you can take your career from one level to the next. So this is kind of the points we're going to be talking about: archiving your studio, presenting your work effectively, creating professional materials, contact management, and then we'll conclude and have a Q&A. And all throughout, if questions come up or things that you want us to talk about, or maybe there's even an aspect about the platform too that you want to see us kind of dive into, let us know. We have slides and screenshots, but we also can fully dive into the back end to kind of see how it looks in an inventory platform like Artwork Archive. And Katie, feel free to jump in at any point too, whenever. I know that sometimes I can, just keep talking because I get really passionate about this. Great. So the first thing that we love to talk about when we are talking about creating an artistic legacy, archiving your studio, the whole concept of archiving feels really archaic. It feels like it's for people who, are at the end of their career, or people who have passed, an artist, and it's historical, all of this, but that's not the case. So we always talk about the best time to plant a tree is, years ago. Was it 10 years ago? The best time to start archiving your studio is when you started. So what that looks like, it just helps you organize your artwork efficiently, really does professionalize your practice. It optimizes sales, ultimately improves your studio management, helps foster connections because you have everything ready and at the go. It helps facilitate those loans and consignments because you know where your artwork is at all times and it's moving at all times. And then ultimately what I love too is it really helps track progress. You can look back at your entire career if you're able to see it all in one place, and it really can inform your future work or help you just, take better control of your career. So getting into the nitty-gritty about it, what do you archive in your studio? We have this quote that I love from Mark Leach, and it says, vision, technique, process, they're all essential to understanding an artist's lifetime and legacy. I feel like a lot of the time we're keeping track of just kind of those tombstone informations of medium, maybe an image, and then maybe a price. And that's just scratching the surface of what's really important to keep track of. So all of the things that you can start archiving in your studio is not only your artwork, but your professional documents. So those are bios, artist statements, resumes, CVs, and keep track of them over the years. So those are going to update and change, but that is still important to, keep track of your bio in the very beginning and kind of see how it's evolved and changed. Proposals, press, any media coverage, creative process, so sketchbooks, photos of those sketchbooks, any notes, all of your exhibitions that you're a part of, and also not only the exhibitions you're a part of, but the pieces that were in those exhibitions, legal documents, contracts, awards, memberships, and then, really this personal insight aspect of anything that's capturing your artistic identity as a whole. Katie, do you want to talk about specific individual pieces? Because I know that that's something that not a lot of people know about as well.
Yeah, definitely. So this is, as you can see in this screen here, this is what would be an artwork record piece in Artwork Archive. And so we're going to use this as an example of what to keep track of and what you can keep track of in Artwork Archive. And as Cassidy mentioned, it's also great to keep in mind for what you can be keeping track of for your artwork. Some of those main kind of critical pieces of information to keep track of that you think you might remember now because you're so passionate about it, you just did it. How could you ever forget? Most of you probably know by now that you will forget all of that information as time goes on. You make more information you make more artwork, and someone asks you about the name of something or the price, and you don't know what it is, even though it's so important to you, and it's just too much information to keep in your mind. And also, we need to free up our mind for other things like creating art. So this just really helps take the stress off of remembering all of that information. It helps you communicate about it. And here's some critical information that we always recommend as the baseline. In Artwork Archive, the only thing that you are required to enter is the title. But we do recommend as a baseline entering the medium and the size, how much it is. And then you can create an exhibition history and location history, which is so important, as you know, as you're doing different shows and exhibitions. Where is that artwork located? And you can see here in this image, you can, as you enter them, you will have that history. So you're building that provenance of your artwork as well, and that increases the value. You can include that in your CV. You can include that when you're applying for grants. You can include that when you're applying for shows. And it's a really great way to keep track of that information on an artwork level, and not just have your CV or something like that. So you can see that here, both location and exhibition history. And then what I also do love is you can include a high resolution image of your artwork. And I do recommend uploading your highest resolution image so that those images are attached to your artwork record. So if you're working with press, you have a show coming up and they want to make a gallery card or a show card to send out, you can send a link. They can just have access to that if you grant access on a report. So it's a great way to save time. I know I personally have wasted so much time looking for images, specific images. And this way you can just save 2 hours and find that information right away and have this whole record of what the story behind that artwork is. So I love this part of it too. And I think we're going to go over a little bit more of it, but I do want to say that it's just, all of this information is creating the story behind your work, but you can also add a bit of the story on each of these artwork records. So we see a lot of different ways that people are using this. Cassidy uses it for, she's an abstract painter. So she uses it to talk a little bit about what she was thinking, what's going on in the world, what contributed to this particular artwork at this particular time. And I think that's so powerful in a way that contributes to our collective narrative and art history, and really gives context to that artwork. And collectors, I know, love to see it because it helps them give context to it as well and latch onto that story. I use it for a little bit more practical reasons. I'm a ceramic artist, so I use it to talk about my techniques and glazing and not forget those things, so I have to do them all again. So that's really helpful for me to kind of progress my career as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use it and tie in all this information together and see it all in relation. So that's a little bit here. We have more.
Yeah, I wanted to point out, you mentioned the high resolution images. I was actually using Artwork Archive for a while before I even joined the team. And for some reason, that was something that I missed, where you can upload high resolution images up to 30 megabytes per image. And then you can have up to 30 images per piece record. So there's no, data cap. It's really based on piece count, different account plans. But when I was working at a gallery, every single show we required high resolution images from the artists because we were writing these press releases. We needed them to go in these magazines. And it was like pulling teeth half the time trying to get high resolution images, and they weren't technically high resolution when they'd send them, and we'd get them all sorts of ways via Dropbox, Hightail, WeTransfer, Google Drive, all these different things. And so when I finally was able to kind of store these high resolution images just in my piece count and send them immediately, it saved a lot of time. So that's something I love to point out.
And they will be downsized automatically for things like reports, those thumbnails on reports, invoices. You don't have to go into InDesign, even if you are a designer. I'm a designer and I don't use InDesign now for those things. But you don't have to learn if you don't want to learn another program. And so you can quickly add those and it will create a thumbnail for you and downsize it for web if you choose to have a public profile, which we will go over in a little bit. But it's an online profile that you can use from this inventory to present those artworks. You can see a little preview of it right here.
Yeah, this is a public profile. And this leads us into kind of the next point of just the importance of presentation. And when you're growing your art career, when you're professionalizing every aspect of it. So a lot of this might be redundant to many of you, but these are just some points to kind of keep in mind when you're thinking about a holistic presentation of you and your work. Photography, so capturing art in high quality photos. Branding, really keeping a consistent look and feel across all of your materials. your website or your, portfolio, however, whatever online platform that you're using to show your work, make sure it's really easy to navigate with really clear images and art details. Don't make people, guess on how they're clicking into what's available, what's not, or, getting to know you more. Just make sure it's really easy to access, because ultimately that's all people really want, is they want to focus on your art and they want to see more about it. Narratives. Make sure you're sharing the stories behind your art and make sure that that's accessible as well. And then professional materials. So use well-designed lists, statements, price, COAs, everything that, make sure it matches the quality of your art, because a lot of the time, artists will have really great pieces or images, and then the organization of their materials doesn't match the professionalism of who they are. And we find that when you elevate those materials, everything works well and better together. And that a lot of the time, the first interaction people are having with you and your art is either, your website or the materials. And so you want to make sure that those are as professional as possible, because a lot of the time you don't get to give context and you don't get to meet in person. So this is something in our work archive, what we're talking about with this consistent branding. So here's a public profile for an artist. This is an invoice and you can upload a header. And then this is a tear sheet, one of the reports that we offer, and this is a logo. So I just love that you can bounce from here to here to here, and it all looks really consistent when you're able to personalize with a logo or, your signature, and they're all cohesive and just simple and professional and well designed. These are some tips that we love offering about photographing your artwork. We'll also share the slides so that you can have these, so that you don't have to read through and take note of all of these. But we always like to talk about the images and how important they are, because they're the first interaction that people have with your work. And really poor images, unfortunately, don't help you at all. So here are some tips. They're just important. So hang on your wall, use a neutral background, and you can go through the list when we send the slides. My biggest recommendation is, if this feels overwhelming and you don't have the equipment, instead of investing so much in the equipment and all this, just consider hiring a professional photographer instead. Or if you have a friend that is really great at taking photos or is more knowledgeable in the area, you can do a trade. You can invest more in that, and you'll make sure that you always have access to those photos. I just recommend that, instead of, getting overwhelmed or taking photos that might not be the quality that you need them to be. And Katie always mentions this, where your photos are what lives on. So when a piece sells and you don't have a quality image, you kind of can't get that back. So in order to use those pieces in the past and let them keep living on, you want to make sure that you take those high resolution, high quality images of them at the get-go, so that you can have that as a part of your legacy. And Katie, I think this is what you were talking about too, about creating a story around the piece. So this is all just, yeah.
This is great, because someone just asked where to put the they called them a narrative, which is a great way to describe it. But how would you add that? So this is exactly going through the questions now. This is where you would add that story.
Yeah. So in a piece record, we can dive in on the back end too. But at the piece record level, we have an option for a description, and then also an option for personal notes. So what I like to talk about when you're, adding description of the pieces is what inspired the work. What are the thoughts and environmental influences at the time? Any special techniques, unique materials? And then if you're not really sure about a description and you don't have this, enlightened or inspired narrative about the piece, just keep in the private notes, these different points. Like maybe, this is what's happening in the world and you're not really sure why you're creating this piece, but this is the piece that came out. I like to look back at my pieces even, months, years later, and I'm able to kind of look at it from a farther perspective and see, oh, wow, I can see exactly why I made this piece. I can see how it ties into my larger body of work. And I have these notes about what I was thinking about at the time. I didn't even realize I was thinking about at the time. I completely forgot. So it's all about just creating this holistic view of you and your career and really keeping track of every single stage of a piece, so that you can, continue to build your artistic legacy. Publicly, so we have different ways to share our work in Artwork Archive. We have a public profile, and then we have a private room, and then you can share reports. But we also have a discovery page where you can look at anybody using Artwork Archive that made their profile public. But this is, again, what a public profile looks like. And if you have your own website, that's really great. We don't try and replace your website because we think that, other platforms like Squarespace and all of these web hosting places are doing a really great job. And we understand the value of custom branding and whatever you want on your website. So if you wanted a public profile, but you wanted to add it to your website, we offer an embed feature. So this is a public profile, but with a little snippet of code on the back end, you can actually embed it into an existing website. So we find that a lot of artists use this for specific collections, for specific pieces, or just to add their entire portfolio so that you're not having to update a website and your inventory constantly. It'll just directly mirror whatever you're doing in the inventory platform. It'll reflect that on your embed on your website. I know we're jumping through a lot of points. This is a lot of information. So hopefully if you have any questions, you can reach out after too, but you can also share your work privately. So we have this option that is a private room where with the pieces in your inventory, you can gather, maybe someone reaches out and says, I'd love to see your available work. We have a show that we want you to participate in, but we want to see what pieces you have that could be potential pieces in the show. You can create a private room. You can send, this custom URL. You can even password protect it. So it's essentially like sending a, private online folder. And this is how it will be viewed on their end, where you can allow them to favorite, to comment. Maybe they can select a piece and you'll get notified of that in your account. You have the option too to completely choose what information you include. So do you want them to see price? Do you not? Do you want them to see the description? Do you not? Do you want them to be able to access the high resolution images or not? This is just another way to quickly share privately if you don't want to make your entire inventory public. And then we're going to go into professional materials. So in Artwork Archive, you can actually generate professional reports. So these are going to be pre-formatted PDF lists that you can include thumbnails of all the artwork in your inventory. You can choose custom information. So you decide, exactly what you want to be on the report. You can add a logo. And again, if you don't have an Artwork Archive account, but you are hoping to up your materials, take these as inspiration, look at them and see what's possible. So inventory reports, portfolio pages, consignment reports, tear sheets, labels, contact, income, expense reports, all of this. All of these different reports and materials are really crucial to an art career, and they really just help organize and professionalize everything about your practice. So I have another experience with the gallery where we had tons of artists. We would actually have boxes of art or art being shipped to the gallery, and we would have no idea title, price, anything, because nothing was included with the art, and the artist would just ship it, it'd show up, and then the work on our end was so extensive because we had to do this back and forth of what's the title of this piece. There was no image associated with the title. It was just chaos. And so the amount of artists that stood out when they had all of their materials together and ready with a professional report like this was insane. It really just made them on a different level than a lot of the others that made us do a lot of work on back and forth. I'm going to go through. Katie, do you want to cover any of these reports? We're just going to walk through them.
I'm in question. So if you
Okay.
want to keep rolling. I got questions. Keep the questions coming. I love hearing them. And we have a private rooms question, but I think maybe we've passed private rooms a bit. So do you want to wait until the end now for those?
Oh yeah, we can wait and then go into the platform if that's more helpful. Okay, we're gonna run through some of these report examples so you can kind of see what they look like, see what the use cases are, and then if you have any questions, pop them in the Q&A because Katie is a master whiz on the Q&A typing answers. So these are the inventory list and tear sheets. So tear sheets are really great for price lists. We see a lot of artists just quickly adding the pieces and then you can add the prices. They'll print those out for the show and just have them on hand at all times. And the inventory list is kind of your catch-all. You know, you stay up to date with available inventory. You're just creating this curated list of your artwork, and you can also send these digitally or print them out and just have them on hand. Portfolio and catalog pages. So this is the style that you want to send when you are sharing your portfolio and you want to focus on each piece on its own. With catalog pages, you're able to even include the description and an exhibition history. So these are really great for collectors who want to know more about a piece. And then the portfolio pages are really great for applications or submitting to galleries. Certificates of authenticity. If you are creating original art and you're not sending a certificate of authenticity with the piece to the collector, you should be with every single one. So these authenticate the piece as an original. They help collectors trace, you know, a piece's history, and it just increases the value of your work because it creates provenance. I also found out that in California, I think it's the law. You have to send a certificate of authenticity with an original piece. Consignment reports. So these, in the Artwork Archive framework, we use consignment reports for location records. When you're, you know, doing a show or you're sending work to a specific location outside of your own inventory. So these just keep track of the pieces you're sending, when you're sending them, who you're sending them to, and then there's also an option at the end to formalize that agreement. So once they get it, there's a signature option. They can confirm, send you a scanned copy, or even send it back to you, just so everyone's on the same page and they know exactly what they're getting. This is the report I was talking about earlier when at the gallery, this would have been just, you know, cherry on top if an artist had this along with the pieces that they were dropping off. Exhibition reports. So something that I mentioned earlier that a lot of people don't really think about, and I wasn't thinking about this until actually I was starting to inventory my art, is we keep up with the exhibitions we're part of in our CV, but we're not keeping up with what pieces were in those exhibitions. And that's huge for the history and the story of the individual artwork. And collectors really love to know that information as well. So this is where you can keep track of your exhibitions. We also have a lot of artists use the exhibition field for submissions too. So when they're submitting to art calls, they want to see what pieces they submitted so that they don't submit them the same or submit the same piece year after year. And what was accepted, maybe what was submitted and what wasn't accepted. This just can all be included in one report. And then my personal favorite, you can also create artwork and QR code labels. So you have small, medium, large options. You can include a thumbnail if you want. You can include a QR code if you want. And even with our QR codes, there's an option where you can print a label and put it on the back of a piece for your inventory, your own inventory management, where if you scan the QR code, it will take you to the piece record in Artwork Archive. So if you need to update the price, if you need to just get in more information about the piece, if you want to update the description, or if you just want to make sure to update the location record so that you're always keeping track of where art is, that's an option. So these are easy to generate just with a click of a button. And then expense reports. How many of you during tax time are stressed or also having to pull up your card and just go through all of your expenses and calculate it all over. It feels like the wheel gets reinvented every single year sometimes when you're dealing with individual art taxes. This is where having a system where you can keep up with expenses and keep up with your sales all in one place is really handy, because at the end of the year, you can just generate a report that breaks it down into categories and helps you already have half the work done. And then this is just a page I like to highlight where you can see where your artwork is. You can see the sales over time, and you can see the number of pieces in your inventory. I just like to look at it to just kind of get a general overview of my whole entire inventory and my career. And just, it gives me a reality check too of, you know, sometimes if you're holding everything in your head, you think that you've got pieces year over year, you're not really sure, you know, your progress, you're not really sure what last year was compared to this year, because everything feels like it's happening all at once and all the years run together. This is kind of that, you know, ability to step back and see your career just in terms of graphs and visuals that you don't really get if you are just, you know, keeping things on a piece of paper or maybe even in Excel. And then this is just something that I like to point out too is, you know, invoices. On one of our accounts, you can also have payment processing. So we connect with PayPal. So you can have digital invoices. Ultimately, what we are really trying to do is just help you save time. So the less platforms you need, you know, everything all in one place is our goal. And so, you know, if you have the payment processing, you're able to just send this and then get paid. It'll all keep track in your Artwork Archive account. It'll be added automatically to your sales, which then during tax time, you can automatically generate the report, etc. It's all connected. And then lastly, what we wanted to talk about were contacts. So building these strong contact relationships. We always talk about your future clients are typically your past clients, and building those relationships is crucial, especially for an art career, because careers are long and you never know who someone who saw your work, you know, 10 years ago as a student is now, you know, a curator at this gallery and remembers your work and wants to keep in touch. So here's some of the types of contacts that you may not know about. And they are collectors, galleries and gallery owners, curators, art consultants and advisors, fellow artists, so keeping up with your contemporaries, critics and art writers, museum professionals, art fair and festival organizers, even your art supply representatives, workshop and teaching opportunities, grant and residency program directors, professional organizations. All of these people are critical to your career as a whole. And so keeping these contacts all in one place is really important. And also just in terms of legacy and in terms of, you know, if you have an assistant that you eventually hire to help, or if you have, you know, just you wanting to remember, okay, I met this person at this art fair. They mentioned they liked this piece. You can keep track of that in an individual contact record. I'm going to show that here. And I know we're going fast and I know that we're covering so much. So please ask questions, and also know that we are available to help at all times. And also we have tons of webinars and tons of things going into all of these details, but because of our limited time, we're just going through so much information. So it might be a little information overload. But back to contacts. So this is some of the information that you can use to track with in a contact record in Artwork Archive. It's, you know, the basics: name, affiliation, interactions. So, you know, the example I was using earlier was you meet someone at an art fair and they come up and they're like, I am, you know, this curator for this. I love these pieces. Contact me in 2 weeks. Where are you going to put that information? A lot of the time it's like in a note or it's in a notepad. I like to write it in a notepad and then go back into my account, create a contact record. I even sometimes just find an image of the person on, social media or online, just so I can have that visual reference so that when I see them again, I can remember them. And then I'll add a reminder to, reach out to them in 2 weeks, and then I'll get that reminder from my account. And then also within a contact record, you can see what reports you've shared, keep up with those notes, and also you can keep up with all of the pieces they've purchased from you, or any expenses. So maybe this is someone who has hired you for a workshop and you want to just keep track of all of those accounting records over time. There's a lot that's possible. However you're keeping track of your contacts, just make sure that you're making your future self, you're helping your future self by keeping up with all of this information right in the present. And it does make a difference, keeping up with those little details of, I remember that you mentioned this last time. People remember that, and it really makes them feel special. Okay, I am off my soapbox, off of my monologue. Katie, if there's anything that you think we missed, or are there any questions, let me know. We can dive into the platform on the other end, but hopefully this has been helpful.
Yeah, and thank you all for getting a lot of good questions, but I want to bump up a few that have come in, and that is, do you use this site in place of your website? Can you use it in a place of your website? How does it work in conjunction with whatever website you're using? Can we go over a little bit more on that public profile and the embed, and maybe see discovery and what that is?
Yeah, so let me do a new share, if that works. On the back end, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so public profile, you can use it in tandem with the website. We do have a lot of artists using it as their main website and their main portfolio. It's whatever works for you. But this is what the back end looks like. So you can get pretty specific on, including profile information, including a logo, your social media links. Then let me show you. You can have an about page with cover photo, you can include your bio. You can include your statement, CVs, all of those kind of crucial things that you need to just show who you are, what your artwork looks like. That's kind of mainly what people want when they're wanting to go to a place. They just want to see a very clear visual example. Public settings. So I was mentioning earlier that you can really customize a lot of things in Artwork Archive, and the public profile is exactly that, where you can choose exactly what you want to show. So do you want to show your prices? Do you not? Do you want to show, do you want them to be able to inquire about the piece or not? Do you want to be able to, show the videos or not? Those are some things that is helpful to see on the back end, is that you can really customize it. And then you can also choose what pieces you want to share. So which ones do you want to be on your public profile? And then here's the integrations. I think that's what you're mentioning, Katie. This is where that universal embed code is. So if you are able to edit your website, the HTML, I know that Squarespace has an embed block, and I know that WordPress and Wix and even Faso has different, we have examples for all of these websites too, where people have embedded their public profile. So if you have any questions, we have this link that we can send just to the help docs for more information. But it's essentially you copy and paste this code into the HTML or into the help block, and then you can either embed your entire portfolio, or if you've created, we have this feature called collections, where you're kind of grouping your artwork based on series, year, however you want. You can embed just that specific collection as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we're getting a few questions about purchase links, which are where you can put a link on this public profile to have a purchase, like have someone actually purchase that work. We don't process works through Artwork Archive specifically, and that's also because we don't take any commission. We don't take any fees. What you see is what you get. So it is very affordable, and we don't do that. So we kind of let the people who are really great at that handle those processing of those fees and sales. But if Cassidy, you want to go over that, and then also maybe a little bit about the invoice purchasing as well, because you can also have someone inquire and then do an invoice for them. So we don't require you to go through a certain processor or have a payment like something on Etsy or any kind of storefront. But it's a little different in that way. So these are great questions. And if Cassidy, if you want to go over what that would look like on your public profile and how that works.
Yeah, that's great questions. And it's so much more helpful to watch us like kind of walk through it than, I know someone's mentioning they were chatting in support, and sometimes things get lost in translation. So different ways to be able to purchase art. So on your public profile, if you have, I think it's the professional or the master plan, you can connect that PayPal, and we take no commission, nothing. You're simply just adding, your PayPal email here, so that when people click on your public profile purchase, and you send them an invoice, they can pay that invoice digitally. And then if you have an outside payment thing or platform, like if you have Square or you have Stripe or something, and you want them to be able to click, when they click purchase, you want the link to be taken directly to where they can pay on Square or Stripe. We have this thing called a purchase link. So this is a piece record. Just going to scroll through. If I go and click edit in this piece record, I'm so sorry if I'm scrolling and this is making anyone nauseous. I know it's hard when you're watching someone else scroll. But within editing the piece record, so there's this place called link to purchase piece. And this is where you can include the Stripe or Square or maybe even a gallery website if they're purchasing the piece there, so that it overrides. Let me just show you an example too. If I click on, open link a new tab on my profile, view profile. If I'm clicking on a piece, this purchase button. So right now, if I click purchase, I can fill out a purchase request. It'll send it to me in my Artwork Archive account, and I'll be able to send an invoice to this person. But what I'm talking about is when you're editing that piece record, you add, Stripe or whatever website link to directly purchase this piece. If they click on that purchase button, it'll take them to this link instead. I hope that makes sense. And Katie, what else was the other question?
It was about private rooms. I'm going back. Oh, there's one about private rooms, but we're getting more now, so I'm trying to say all of the. Okay. Nope. Let's go back to private rooms. How do you see if someone has shared, or how do you communicate with private rooms? Like, is there favoriting? Can people comment on it? How do you see if someone has access to that room?
That's a great question too. So here is a private room. I can share it right here, either to one of my contacts or to, if I made a contact group, and then send it along. And then I can also, it'll show up underneath here if there are favorites. So when I'm in a private room, let me show you the editing part. So I'm going to edit this private room. I've decided, this is all what I want to show. And I'm going to allow these viewers to send messages or favorite pieces. And then I'm going to protect it with a passcode. And then these are the pieces that I've chosen. I'm actually going to add this one too. I'm going to save that room. And then if I want to preview it of how they're going to see it, I'll click public view. And then let me click. So you see here now they can either favorite, and then they don't have to create an Artwork Archive account. They don't have to do any of that. They just so you know who's favoriting, they just have to verify their own email. But then they can, after that, they do it once. Now they can favorite whichever pieces they want. They can also comment. So they can say, love this piece. Do you have it in a different size? Or, this is the style I'm hoping for the commission. And then you'll be able to see those messages show up in your inbox, or you can see the favorites within the private room itself. And then this is where, if someone sends a purchase request on your public profile, you can immediately, reply via your own email, or you can create an invoice and send it to them.
Awesome. And I do want to mention, just because a lot of people are asking what our support is like. Do you have live support? How can I ask questions after this? We have, Cassidy is showing here, we have a live chat on the site, and we're extremely responsive. I would say in an hour or two, often much faster. And you would get one of us, you'd get someone on the team. It's an expert who has maybe built the product or it's very familiar. So we are there for you. You can also reach out to team@artworkarchive.com or info@artworkarchive.com with specific questions. So getting a lot of questions here about how would this work with my specific website to embed it? And we love going through those questions. Every website is a little bit different. And we do have also a great learning center. If you want to watch a few more videos or do a deep dive into one of the features that we've mentioned, because there's so much on each feature that we are not even able to touch on here. You can do a deep dive here, and then also join our newsletter, because we host these and go really in depth. So say you're really interested in the contacts feature or private rooms or the public profile, we do sessions just on that. And we also do training sessions every other week and are open for your questions for like live kind of office hours. So we are there for you, and customer support or like talking to you all has been, a great joy and has really led our product development. So we love hearing from you, and it's very important for us to have those conversations. So we're there for you. If you need a phone call, we'll have a phone call, but we have so many resources for you all to also learn about all of this and join sessions just like this as well.
Yeah, here's that link, or here's a page full of links, and I think we'll share the links with you all. But you are not left in the dark. We do truly we do full training sessions every single month, because we know it's also a learning curve whenever you're trying to start inventorying your platform or inventorying your studio, and also the webinars. So we even just host webinars on general industry topics. So even if you're not an Artwork Archive user, you can also access all of these resources for free. We don't put a paywall up on the webinars or on the newsletter or on any of the guides. The blog is completely free too. So go in, check it all out. And then if you have any questions, you can always contact us. Our team is kind of addicted to customer support. So to a fault maybe, but so if you want to reach out, you totally can on the chat, and we are really passionate about responding.
How much for the OPA team? I know we're running on about an hour here. Is there more time for questions or people?
Hi, Katie, it's Mark. Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you that need to leave us now, because we're about on the hour, that's fine. You'll get an email on Sunday, which will have a link to watch again. So we can carry on with the Q&A for 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then if anybody's missing anything because they have to leave us, then you can pick that up again when you get the link on Sunday.
Great. And thanks to everyone that has to leave. I know thanks for joining us for your lunch hour. Okay, we have a bunch more questions coming in, and keep them coming. I love doing the questions. Okay, somebody's wondering, they want to show the original, but listed as a sell of a piece. I'm not sure. Maybe the person who asked this, can you tell us a little bit more about what you want to do? Because there is an additions functionality. And we can go, did you go over additions at all, Cassidy?
No, we actually didn't go through all of the features, so we can jump in to some of these if we want to go more in depth on them.
Yeah, so I reread it and I do get it. So they have an original piece and there's editions of it. The original is not for sale and they want to sell prints of it.
Okay. Awesome. So we have this editions feature. Let me just show you. If I click new edition, I can say, all right, this is an edition of this original piece. This is actually a print that is, 18 by 24. It's limited. I'm only making 5 of them. Here's the image of the print. Maybe it's framed or something. Maybe I want to populate it. Go ahead and populate the data with the original piece. Of course, I'll need to, change it. Price probably not the same as the original, so you can do that, and then now I'm just getting into the weeds of creating it, but I can save this edition, and then I can create this edition of this piece. So now here is this edition of this original, and if I click into, let me go back to that original piece, I can go down here and see the additions that I've made for that specific piece. And I can even list that specific edition on my public profile. So I'm not selling the original, I'm selling the edition of it. Oh, I see a question that I like. Would this work to manage inventory in a gallery? Yeah. So we have this locations feature. Maybe this is what you're asking, I'm presuming, but this is where you keep track of all the locations, the physical locations of where your artwork is traveling to. So if it's a gallery, if it's, multiple studios, if it's a storage unit, if it's just different locations, wherever your artwork physically is, this is where you want to keep track of them. So I'm going to click into this location record and show you what it looks like. So, here's a gallery, here's the address, any important information you need to know. Here are the pieces at that location. So maybe it's, you need to see the retail value because you need to have insurance on it. You can also see what pieces have sold from that specific location. So you can see, how well your work is doing at specific galleries. You can have a contact record for maybe the curator or the director. You can attach additional files. Maybe it's a contract with that gallery. Maybe it is, the price list for that gallery that you just want to keep in track of. You can also generate reports for that specific place. So maybe you want to send them along with labels with those pieces in that specific location record. You can also keep track of gallery shows in your exhibitions feature. So this is where, let's say I am a part of an exhibition. These are the pieces that are in the show. And then this is the gallery where it's going to be located. Sorry, I'm reading more questions.
Yeah, so let's go over the schedule really quick there too, because I think that ties into someone is asking about the schedule feature and how that works. So the schedule feature is used, it's automatically updated, and it's a great way for, this is a demo account, so there's nothing really in there right now. But you can see, if you're entering an exhibition or a show, it's a great way to keep track of upcoming deadlines, your reception dates, when you have to drop off your work, when you have to pick it up. I'm guilty of never picking up shows from work, or work from shows. So don't be like me. And you want to be someone who is easy to work with. And so this really helps to be a professional and be on top of those deadlines. And there's so much to, here we go. Yeah, you can see it here. So you can get all those dates, and we'll send you can opt in or opt out of having a weekly reminder email, so you can see what's going on specifically just for your art deadline. So you can integrate it into your own calendar system and have that into your Google Cal or something like that. But it's a great way to have just like your art related deadlines or dates just in one place. I find that useful to have that separate from, picking up kids or going to different obligations. And then I did also want to mention, Susie's been a long time Artwork Archive artist and user and appreciate all of her feedback. And she recommended to us recently that when she first started, she actually got someone to help her kind of input the information and get up to speed, because it can be overwhelming when you are just starting. And I know it's overwhelming today when we're showing you so much that is possible. And I do want to just emphasize that the best way to start, I recommend going from your most recent works back if you're doing it yourself and doing a little bit each week. You don't have to do it all at the same time, and you don't have to put all the information in at the same time. So as we mentioned, a little bit at a time, that's going to forward you forward. We also have an import system. So if you're already coming from something like Excel or you have a note, and we have an import system for those, I think, on the master artist account, we'll help you import that information. So if you're coming from something like that, you don't have to, or a different platform, we can help you get that information in. I know it's a lot, especially if you've
Yeah.
been for many years, which many of you have.
Susie, I'd love to hear your experience.
Yeah, I think Mark is about to put me in there.
Yep, you're there now.
Yep, I would say that I imagine a lot of you are just buzzing right now, thinking of the possibilities of how this could work with your professional business side of your art making. And I would say it felt very, very overwhelming because I had, folders of receipt sales and all the images on my computer, and getting them all plugged into this environment felt very overwhelming. And I simply just got a studio grad from one of the universities nearby, and I paid him to do the data entry. And he sat in my studio with my computer, and it's, sometimes we had to pull paintings out so he could measure, but that feeling of getting everything in one place, everything everywhere all at once, what's that movie, was just fantastic. And so now I'm in a place where I do it as it comes, and you'll be glad. But I also considered that, if I'm paying him whatever it was, $15, $20 an hour, I can be at my easel. I can be making the art, and this is something that I could get him to do the data entry. So just a thought. Yeah, and I really like your feature where somebody can inquire about a piece. And what I've done on my website is there's an available section for my artwork, and I have linked right there to it, because if I'm, and that when they want to click the purchase note, it doesn't automatically let them pay for something, because I might be traveling. That piece might have gone to the OPA National Show, and rather than buying directly from me, they're going to be buying from the gallery that's hosting the show. And that gives me an opportunity to communicate with the collector that's interested in that piece and get them to the right place. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
That's so helpful to hear. Yeah, I also have had someone inquire. I'm thankful that there wasn't a quick purchase option, because I had someone inquire about a piece that before I was using the platform that I could have sworn I had, and I just completely lost. It was not in my studio. It was not in a show. I actually didn't know where it was at the time, and if they had just bought it, it would have been an embarrassing moment. I was able to say it wasn't available at the moment. But that's also something that actually, as a quick note, I wanted to mention is if there are pieces that are destroyed or archived or lost in general, you can also designate those pieces in your inventory as well. So they're just as important to your career and to your legacy. Pieces you've painted over or you just want to keep track of, but they're not necessarily in your inventory. If you add these statuses, they'll just go into this hidden category on your inventory. So they're not actively in your inventory, but they are still a part of your whole career and your legacy. Oh, you're muted, Katie.
I just saw that. Thank you. And thank you both for those great answers. And thanks, Susie. I did want to mention people are asking about an OPA discount or OPA discount, and we do have one, and it's a 20% for the lifetime of your subscription. So any subscription when you sign up through artworkarchive.com/OPA, you get 20% off for the lifetime of your subscription, and plans start at $8 a month. So with a discount, I think that's around $6 a month. People were asking about pricing. So it's pretty affordable for all the features that are available. And there's different features going up, but you get a lot on the initial one. We are a team of artists. We, understand that pricing is important, and we want to be achievable for, people who are just starting out, and also professional artists and galleries and the biggest, art corporations that have art collections. So there's a lot that you can do throughout each plan. So if you have any more questions, please reach out to us. I think there are a few more questions. I think we're running out of time. If you have any more questions and specific questions for your account, we'll be here the rest of the day. We'll be here next week, forever, to answer your questions. We'd love to hear from you. And, it's great to see you all. And thank you again for taking all the time today to learn more.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Katie and Cassidy. That was a great presentation, and I think a real help to our membership. And I think you're going to get a lot of people signing up. This is one of the great things about the OPA. We're an organization of artists run on behalf of artists, and it's fun to see two artists who've also started or working with a business that really is reaching out and helping artists in this way. So we appreciate your presentation today. I encourage everybody who has been watching that you'll get a lot more of this kind of good information if you come to our national convention in 6 weeks. These vendors will all be there. The vendor last week that we had of silver brushes will be there. So it's a real opportunity to meet these vendors and to learn more about what they have to offer us. Do you have anything else to add, Susie?
I don't think so. Just come to our national show and convention. You will not be sorry. It is a place for us to, you come to the convention for all of the reasons that are in our program, but one of them is you're just sitting down having conversations with other artists about this life that we live and all of those things that we need to do to be successful professional artists. So worth the price of admission might come at lunchtime when you're having a chat with your new art buddy. So anyway, we look forward to seeing you guys there. And Mark will provide links for all that and a follow-up email. And of course, we're easy to find on the web. So Oil Painters of America.
I think that's a good note to end on, Susie. Thank you. And thank you, Cassidy and Katie. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.